passionate to beat somebody. We're passionate to beat everybody.
My expectation is we go out and dominate and create a nightmare and make people never want to play you again.
If you are a fan of another team and your coach is not out there doing everything that Kirby Smart is doing right now, you are already losing. You feel however you want to feel about that.
Nowhere to run and nowhere to hide for 4 quarters. They got to see us in our house for 4 quarters. They got to look us in the eye for 4. This is about us and our family and our house. This is about us. This is our mentality. We ain't backing down. We ain't running. Set a tone, send a message. This is our house. Physical toughness wins in football now. And if you in this room, you got it. And if you come in here, you better believe in it. Because this physical toughness, it's what makes the difference. Elite focus. That's all I'm doing to the guy across from me. I'm fixing to whip his ass. Not in my box, not today. It's about us. It's about our family. We attack. You take that helmet and you strike them. And you strike them and you strike them. That's how you get respect. Physically, I want to break them.
It is Sunday night, and we are back. I hope everybody's doing well because we are going to break in another edition in the week that was everything in University of Georgia football. But we're going to do it in a conversational manner. Everything I may have seen on social media or some actual news that happened this week, we're going to get into it all. But tonight is the night that is about you guys here in the chat. So I'm happy to see all of you here with us early. Let's see, who do we already have in here? Timothy's in here. Steel Supreme's in here. Carol's in here. Welcome in, everybody. It's good to see you. I know we got friends over on Facebook and other places. There's Bruce. Good to see you, friend. Good to see you in here. It's time for us to get into this thing and start to talk about all of the cool that's going on here in the off season around Georgia football. The first thing that got my attention this week was the fact that Georgia is not only a one sport school. People like to tell us that. People like to throw that out as some sort of a taunt or a jeer. But what we've seen this spring is verifiable proof that the dogs across the University of Georgia, dogs are getting it done. I mean, just this week, we know the baseball team is hosting a regional, and they have been rocking right along throughout that tournament so far. And last week, they claimed the SEC championship, doubling up on what they had already done as a regular season champion. And then they went out and won the SEC tournament to be SEC champions. And of course, Georgia football sort of gave them a fist bump from across the aisle and said, hey, man, way to go. SEC football champions, SEC baseball champions. And it goes much, much further than that. The Dogs have had success in softball. They've had success in basketball. They are having success in football and baseball, not to mention all the non-revenue sports that we frankly don't have time to list here. The Dogs are getting it done all over the place. So kudos to Josh Brooks and the athletic department over there at the University of Georgia for what they're doing to make the University of Georgia competitive in as many sports as possible. It is, in fact, an everything school at the University of Georgia. If you don't believe me, just check out this snazzy little graphic that was put out by Old Row this week. Everything schools. Alabama and Georgia are the only schools to make the college football playoff, the men's and women's basketball tournament, the baseball tournament, the playoffs, and the softball tournament. So, again, it's not just one area where the University of Georgia is excelling. They're getting it done all over the board. Now, I know that the people who are hanging out here with us tonight in this chat, you guys are already very, very aware of this. But the next time somebody pops up and has something they want to say about, man, Georgia's only good at football, and then if they really want to show their ignorance and say something crazy like, and we see they're falling off too, just understand at that point who you're dealing with. Just put this in your back pocket, have it with you, little nugget, so you can kind of throw it out there and just say, hey, man, Georgia's been, they're getting it done all over the place. So, you know, we don't have to like the truth all the time, but that doesn't make it any less the truth. I got to tell you something else that got my attention this week. Not only is Georgia championship level across the athletic department in multiple sports. There's just something different about the way Georgia goes about their football business at the University of Georgia. It's different than most every other football program across the country. And I saw something this week that just proved that point again for me. What am I talking about? Presumed RB1 heading into 2026, the first guy on the field who, I mean, understandably is in a platoon, but the guy we all expect to see out there first. Nate Frazier came out this week on social media and responded to a post from PFF. And, you know, that's a grading metric system. That's their whole business, is they figure out how good you are based on the numbers, the statistics. They came out and said, hey, Nate, you had a good season. And they posted a graphic about it. And then Nate saw that and said, wait a minute, that's not good enough. Not good enough. He went out this past season and led the Georgia Bulldogs in rushing yards. He went out and had 6 touchdowns, I believe it was. And when it came time for him to take the pat on the back, you know, to stand right there and be like, you know what, I did have a good season, Nate just said, you know what, those 40 missed tackles that I forced last year, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. That 90 PFF grade over the course of the season, that's not good enough. Those 953 yards that I accumulated in 2025, that's not good enough. Yep, those 6 touchdowns, that's not good enough. And I understand the motivation here. Nate has had a bit of a rough offseason. Now, we know he recently lost his father. We know that this could be moving year for Nate. This could be the year that if he stays healthy, has a big year, he's going to move on to the NFL. And of course, as Georgia fans, we want him to have as big a year as possible. But when he looked at what he did last year, even with another SEC championship ring on his hand, he understands what the bigger goal is. He understands that now at the University of Georgia, an SEC championship, it's great, but it's not good enough. Now, where else have we heard this recently? Nate wants to do great, and you say, okay, Nate wants to do great for Nate, right? Because he's about to go and make his big move into the professional ranks once this year is over. Nate wants to go out and become all SEC or potentially all American. He wants to put his name out there for Heisman consideration. Nate wants those brand deals, man, once his days at Georgia are done. Or if he decides to come back, he wants more NIL opportunities. It's easy to see why Nate would be motivated for Nate, but we know, think back to earlier this year, the whole business about, is he going to jump in the transfer portal? Is he holding out for more NIL? All that. Nate squashed all that and was like, man, none of that was ever the case. I think the Georgia people know that I'm happy to be a Georgia Bulldog and I want to be in Athens. I believe Nate when he says that. So Nate wants to win for Georgia. Just winning an SEC championship is not good enough. Just succeeding for himself is not good enough. He knows that in Athens, it takes more than that. If you want to be a legend in Athens, the bar has been set at a national championship level. And he gets that. When he first got on campus, Nate said, I want to be in Athens because of the history of the running back position at the University of Georgia. Fair enough. And he could say that as a freshman, and you wonder, do you really get it? Does he really understand? But over his time in Athens, I think he's shown us that he gets it. He has reverence for the guys that came before him. Herschel and Nick and Sony and Todd. He understands. DeAndre Swift, he gets it. But he also gets the part that outside of Herschel, none of those guys got to do. And that is, if you win a national championship, obviously, it's different. Now, I asked you before, I'll ask you again, where have we heard not good enough earlier this year? could be from the head man. Because when Kirby Smart was asked about what's it like only winning the SEC championship, he said, that's not good enough. He owned it. A victim of his own success. And he fully embraces it. He's completely aware that it's not good enough to just sit on your laurels as an SEC champion. A champion in the best college football conference in the country is not good enough. Because at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, college football has turned into a sport that only cares about the results of the playoffs for most, for the casual fans for certain. And Kirby Smart, he gets it. But I think Nate Frazier is telling us he gets it too. I think there's a new theme emerging in Athens. SEC Media Days is, about a month and a half away. And every year, Kirby shows up with a little different something he wants us to take away. A different mantra, a different motto. I don't know that he's going to step up there and say, all the success we've had at Georgia is not good enough. I don't think he's going to do that. But if there's something in the ballpark of that, if there's something shaking hands with that idea that he delivers at SEC Media Days, I will not be surprised. Because they understand that yes, there is a new sort of theme emerging. Kirby's saying it. Nate's saying it. You have to wonder how many times it's being said around the building. How many times is it being said in those skull sessions or in those lifts or in those player-led afternoons spent running and conditioning? How many times are they hearing that? It's not good enough. I'd love to know. It would take somebody who's plugged in a little bit more than I am, who's at practice, who's inside those walls of the building, to verify for us just how much that's mentioned. Because it's not like the Dogs haven't been successful. They certainly have. But I think there's also a very real awareness among the fan base and among the coaching staff, and now we see it among the players, that just winning the SEC is not good enough. So if you wonder whether the Dogs are motivated, I would say this is a pretty good example. They are looking motivated to me. So, I don't know. You think I'm onto something there? Did y'all notice that? Is that just me? Is that just me? Did anybody else catch that out on social media? Because it got my attention right away. That's for sure. I know you guys are having a good time over here in the chat. I can see it. Always talking dinner on a Sunday evening. I don't even have to look. I'm pretty confident. Steele's probably got the grill up or at least got the oven cranked. He's getting some stuff done. I'm happy about it. You guys are doing good. I appreciate y'all being here with me. So there's a lot that's been shaken out. Again, this statement really stood out to me this week. It really meant something. It resonated differently for some reason. And we'll see if they can add on to it, build on to it. I don't know that they'll be able to, but I do think that the opportunity is certainly there, right? Because if you're talking about it enough, it sort of just becomes second nature. You don't even have to say it every day. It's just that if you're saying it consistently, right? If you're just somebody, anybody, a coach, an assistant, a player, anybody who's out there just repeating this over and over and over, eventually it just kind of hangs in the air. And whether they're saying it outright or not, everybody knows that it's not good enough. So I will be interested in seeing what's going on as we look towards SEC Media Days and a little bit further. Now, the next thing that we have to talk about is the fact that it is recruiting season. All across the country, official visits are happening, and Georgia is having yet another big recruiting weekend. They picked up a commitment, I'm not sure if it was yesterday technically or early this morning, from a young man named Trey Shields, who is just waiting. He's super excited to be a Georgia Bulldog. He's going to be part of the 2026 class, but he's going to show up here this summer. And you have to think back, he's a wide receiver. You have to think back, this is exactly how Ladd McConkey made his way to Athens. A late addition and afterthought, and we all know how the story went with him. Now, I'm not telling you that this young man's going to be the next Ladd McConkey. I'm just saying, you got to pay attention to all these commitments. And for everybody out there who says, oh, wait, he's a 3-star kid, or oh, wait, why didn't anybody else take him sooner? Why is he just now committing? If they try to throw rocks at it or poke holes in this commitment, I just want to question you on one thing. Georgia fans keep telling me we want the ones who want to be here. We don't want the ones who are here for the money or whatever. This young man on his social media, for whatever that's worth, said that he is 1,000,000% locked into the University of Georgia. Okay, kid, fair enough. But at the very least, he's publicly stating that he's thankful to have an opportunity to be at the University of Georgia, and he is locked in and committed to be here. There will be no flipping or flopping. He's going to be in Athens. And if you're a Georgia Bulldogs fan, regardless of what some rankings system rates this kid or any other recruit, if he's out there standing on the table screaming, I want to be a Georgia Bulldog, and he commits and has a committable offer from Kirby Smart and his guys, then, I'm just saying, you got to give him credit somewhere. Give him credit for wanting to be in Athens. Give him credit for working real hard to earn that offer late. Whatever it is, he's earned a little bit of credit here. So I'll just throw that out there. But there's more than that going on. This was yet another big weekend where Georgia had in 5 stars and multiple blue chip prospects that they're trying to bring into Athens. And today, there have been a couple of commitments already. Torian Williams got things started off this morning. He is an in-state playmaker, wide receiver, 3-star, according to the rankings, who committed to the Dogs, but don't let that fool you. Now, again, this is where I'm just going to tell you, if all you're doing is paying attention to star ratings and that sort of thing, and nothing else matters to you except what somebody you've never met tells you about these guys, this is a top 300 player. Again, he's from the state of Georgia, 6 foot from Sandy Springs, plays under former Georgia Bulldog great Terrence Edwards, and he chose the Dogs over Ohio State, Indiana, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Vanderbilt. So you can say whatever you want about the fact that the young man was a 3-star rated player. Seems to be good enough for those other schools to offer. Not that Georgia needs anybody's permission. They're doing their own evaluations. I'm just trying to give you a little perspective. Again, if you're going to throw rocks at this young man and his potential in Athens, at least acknowledge that there are other schools out there who are also interested. And that was just the first one. The next young man to pull the trigger on his commitment today was DJ Dotson. Now, this one gets me really excited because, I'm an old defensive lineman. Now, this young man is an offensive lineman and a big one. 6'7", 320 pounds, the son of a 12-year NFL pro at offensive tackle. He's rated as a 3-star too. Now, what do you think about that? Is that the kind of thing you're like, I'm going to pass up on this mountain of a man who has NFL bloodlines because he's a 3-star? Really? I don't think so. He chose Georgia over LSU, Ole Miss, Georgia Tech, Nebraska, and Auburn. Again, the young man's from Mississippi. So when they asked him why are you going to Georgia? He said, because nobody is developing offensive linemen and putting them in the league the way Georgia is. Nobody. It was simple. And his father, again, whatever input he had in this discussion, is coming at it from the perspective of somebody who played 12 years in the league. Seems to carry a little weight for me. I mean, you can make whatever decision you want to make about it, but that's how I see it. These guys are wanting to be at the University of Georgia. So I'll bring you back to that. If you are like, I don't want the money guys, I want the guys that the coaches like and that want to be in Athens. Well, we got a couple of those today, and this weekend is not over. Like I said, Jackson Dollar, 5-star commit, was on campus this weekend. And he was not alone. The top linebacker in the state is on campus this weekend. So we'll see what happens with that. There are other wide receivers, other DB. There's just all kinds of talent in Athens being recruited to come play for the G. It's about that time of year where Georgia starts to crank this thing up a little bit, and you start to hear more about these recruits saying, yep, I'm going to be in Athens. Well, we'll see. We will see, because we are in that season. But so far, today was a good day for the University of Georgia in terms of the next wave of Bulldogs that we'll be talking about for the next few years. And again, I want to remind you, for those people who are like, I don't even care about high school recruiting anymore, fine. But I had Roddy on the show, Roddy Nabulsi from UGAsports.com. We were having a discussion, and he said, I'll tell you this much. You can like them or not like them, the commitments, the decommitments, all that kind of stuff. He said, but the odds of a player signing with a school go up dramatically if they have committed verbally to that school. If they never verbally commit, whether they decommit, waiver, whatever, if they never verbally commit, the chances of you actually signing that player are extremely low. So think about the freshmen that are going to be counted on heavily here in 2026 for Georgia. Just like those freshmen last year that wound up being difference makers for Georgia. Dontrell Glover, Juan Gaston, just a couple. This year, there's at least 5. Zakai Helton, Craig Dandridge, the wide receiver, Caden Prothrow, the tight end. Recruiting matters. Getting these young men on campus, having them commit, it matters. If you don't think so, I don't know. I just think you're not really paying attention to the whole process. One thing we do for sure is pay attention to the whole process over on How About Them Dogs Plus. That is our exclusive premium Patreon offering where you get everything that we do all put in one place. And I've got a little bit of better news here too, because I just announced something yesterday that is nuts. It's insane. It's the Summer Insanity offer where you can get 3 months of How About Them Dogs Plus access for just $3. Not $3 and $3 for the 3 months. No, $3 gets you all 3 months of a complete access pass over on Plus. I've never done this before. I may never do it again. If you have been waiting for an opportunity to jump in here and try it out, see what it's all about, don't let this get by without taking advantage of it.
If you look at the entirety of our league, we are by far the most competitive, the strongest football league, by far. From a big picture, the breadth, the depth of this league stands alone. In fact, we saw metrics out of the college football playoff presentation where there's no doubt we're the strongest league. Now, there's some segments of other leagues that are towards where we are, but not nearly the entirety of a conference like the Southeastern Conference. It's a pretty special place.
There was a whole lot of noise made this week in Destin, Florida. It seems like there were 50 people running to a microphone out there. 16 coaches, 16 ADs, 16 school presidents, and everybody had an opinion on everything from college football playoff expansion to the 9th game to what are we going to do with NIL, and should the SEC even break away and form its own league? It was a lot of noise. At the end of the day, Kirby Smart summed up his whole position on the whole thing, the biggest topic of the week, which was college football playoff expansion. And is he for it or against it? And by saying, I would much rather talk about how the teams are decided that are in it. And that came on the heels of a meeting where the representatives from the college football playoff came in and tried to answer the questions about strength of schedule metrics and what they actually mean with regard to the SEC, understanding that like Commissioner Sankey said, the SEC is by far the toughest conference in college football. And if you're going to play more games inside the toughest conference in college football, then you need to have a good understanding of what that looks like when it comes time to decide who's going to make the college football playoff. So people peppered Kirby with all the questions about, should it be 16? Should it be 20? Should it be 24? Kirby said, I don't care. Really? Just let me know what I got to do to get in. I mean, he said a lot of things, but that's the soundbite that stuck out to me this week the most. At the end of the day, and it's the same thing I've been telling y'all about Kirby forever, just tell me the rules so I know what to do and I can work inside those rules to get Georgia into this playoff, and then we'll go take our chance. That's what he's saying. That, to me, that's what the whole thing boils down to. He talked about, you know, should we break off and go do our own thing? And there were some legs to that. He talked about, I care about the other sports in college. Absolutely. He is the voice in the room who leads the conversation. Everyone defers to Kirby Smart these days inside that room, as they should. I mean, he's won the most SEC championships. He's won the most national championships. He's also the longest tenured coach in the room. If you're going to listen to anybody, listen to him. But he knows that everything he says is also going to be felt outside of Destin, outside the footprint of the SEC. And he's very well aware of that. And to him, it all boils down to just one thing. What do I got to do to get in? Just set those rules and let us go from there. So that was Kirby. And again, every coach came to the podium and they had something they wanted to talk about, right? We were misled. We were told that if we go to 9 SEC games, then we'll have a 16-team playoff. That's what we were told, according to John Summerall, head coach at Florida. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if he felt misled, but there's a lot of consternation about it. And currently, the SEC is playing the 9-game schedule, and they're being mandated that they must play a Power 4 opponent out of conference every year. When you look across the country, and there are other leagues who don't have to play a Power 4 conference out of a Power 4 team out of conference at all. I'm not arguing for fairness. I'm just arguing for, can we at least shake hands and be straight with one another? And if we say we're going to go to 9 games, and if we go to 9, we'll go to a 16-team playoff to accommodate for those extra losses your teams are going to take, inevitably, in a league like the SEC. Let's shake hands on it and let that be the deal. And apparently, that's what the SEC thought they had with Big Ten. That's what they thought they had. The Big Ten was the first to say 16 teams. And now that the SEC is all on board with, let's do 16. Sankey's publicly said, let's do 16. We went to 9. Let's do 16 games or 16 teams. Now the Big Ten acts like they've never even heard of the 16-team idea. Nope. We reject it out of hand. We want 20 now. I don't know. The rules are moving all over the place. The only thing that really came out of this week in the SEC that stuck, well, Greg Sankey in the SEC said, we like the way we get our money right now, and we don't want to change that. Because there was this notion that the conferences would all pool their TV rights and negotiate collectively for their next television deal. And the SEC said, no, I don't think so. Because they know that the most prime inventory in the game revolves around games that have SEC teams in them. And it's not close. Something like 6 or 7 times the number of top rated games this past season came out of the SEC or games that the SEC teams were in. So you had like 20 something of the top 50 came out of the SEC component matchup. Then you had like 3 or 8 from the Big Ten or something like that. So they know that the way we work our TV deals benefits us because we have the best product. So we're going to keep doing that. So don't mess with our money. We're not in that whole pool or revenue thing. Not when it comes to TV, because we are the draw. And he's not wrong. You can go look this up. Just go look up the numbers. More fans watch SEC games than any other games in the country. It is the most valuable commodity on the table. So I don't disagree with Sankey. If your whole purpose is to look out for the SEC and make as much money as possible for the SEC, yeah, why would you want a pool? Why? No, just reject that out of hand and be like, nope. We're just going to keep doing our own deals. We'll keep negotiating it. It'll be fine. We'll work it out. It's all good. You just let us do what we're doing. The rest of y'all do the best you can. Good luck. And at this point, why wouldn't Sankey take that approach? Not only because it makes sense, but again, just think about what the Big Ten just told them. Come on to 9 games. We'll do 16 teams. It'll all be great. The SEC jumps to 9 games, still negotiating, more money in their TV deal. And the Big Ten says, what? I've never heard of 16 games. We're not doing 16 games. And we're not even going to make our guys play out of conference Power 4 opponents. So it all depends on how you want to look at this. Do you want to look at this like Greg Sankey is just sitting there twiddling his thumbs while the rest of college football figures stuff out? Do you think he's being reactive instead of proactive? Or do you think he's playing a much longer game because there are no decisions that have to be made on scheduling or CFP or any of that until the middle of the summer at the earliest and December at the latest if we're talking about the CFP expansion? Do you think he's playing the long game and negotiating for what's best for the SEC? Or do you believe that he's being completely played by the Big Ten? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts because everybody seems to have an opinion about this. And at the end of the day, the idea of the SEC breaking away, even though Kirby said, I'm not scared of it, even though Jerry Moorhead said, I think we have to look at it, even though Greg Sankey said it could be a possibility and everything's on the table. I don't expect that to happen. So do you think that Sankey is doing a really good job in leadership of the conference, or do you think he's leaving something to be desired? Out of all that noise, for me, from a Georgia perspective, it came down to exactly what Kirby said. Just tell me what matters and what we need to do to get into the tournament. Just tell me that, and I'll go take my chances with the rest of it. That's how I feel. I'm with Kirby. All the rest of it's noise. Just tell me how to get into the playoff. Kirby did go on to say his bit about the SEC championship game. And we've talked about it here on this channel a lot. He, like I, love that game. He loves that game. He wants that game to continue. But he came right out and said, if we're looking at expanding the playoff and starting the season sooner, and that means you have to lose the SEC championship game, well, that means that we're losing a ton of revenue. The marquee game on the championship game schedule is the SEC game. It's an event unlike any other, and it demands revenue that you think it would demand to hold that title. So if you take that away, where does that money come from? If somehow the TV people came to the SEC and said, we'll give you $200 million. $200 million, we'll expand the playoff. The SEC championship game goes away. The SEC might say, I'm not so sure. If they came to the SEC and said, we'll give you $300 million. The SEC championship game goes away. We expand the playoff. If you're in that ballpark, I think Sankey and the SEC will say, you know what, we'll make this thing work. We'll figure it out. And if that means the SEC championship game goes away, even Kirby Smart hinted this week that he'd be all right with that, as long as you can replace that revenue. Because again, Kirby is out here arguing on behalf of the other sports, the non-revenue sports, understanding that football drives these athletic departments' bottom line. And like I mentioned earlier, Kirby knows the nation is listening. So the pieces continue to move. No real answer about anything except that the SEC is going to hold on to their own bargaining rights. And everything else is just kicked down the road just a little bit further. As the world turns, I guess, stay tuned in. We'll see where this thing goes next. Another bit of news we saw this week was something that made me think, man, the season's coming. It is so coming. It is real close. I can feel it. ESPN came out and said, hey, we've got a schedule for the first 3 weeks of the season. And now we know that Georgia on September 5th will kick it off at 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock, September 5th. It's going to be a hot one. Go ahead and start hydrating. Just telling you now. Against Tennessee State to get the 2026 campaign underway. And then the next week, at home between the hedges, the Hilltoppers of Western Kentucky come between the hedges for a 12:45 kickoff. I guess that's a little bit better. At least we'll get that one over and done with and get on with our day, right? And then the next week, when the Dogs have to go on the road to Arkansas, they have a noon kickoff. Now, there was a lot of scuttlebutt, a lot of angst, a lot of argument, a lot of dust getting kicked up by the Arkansas athletic director this week because of the way the schedules were done to his team. But this is not an Arkansas show. He was unhappy about the quick turnaround his team was going to have to face. But ultimately, it's not ESPN who scheduled Arkansas the way they did. That would be the athletic director or the head coach. So sometimes you just got to take what you get. And this week, we learned that the Razorbacks get a noon kickoff against our Georgia Bulldogs out there in Arkansas on September 19th. So does that make you feel like we are more into college football? Does it feel like it's coming? Does it feel any more tangible? Maybe. Friends, that brings me to the end of my organized thoughts for tonight's show. So let's take a look over here in the chat and see what's going on. What you guys got going on over here? What are we talking about in the chat here on YouTube? What is it that is keeping you guys interested? I see you looking at the recruits there, checking that out. And I appreciate the heads up there, Bruce, on my mic earlier. I appreciate it. I forget. That's one of the dumbest things about this system I work with. When you leave a soundbite, it doesn't bring you right back. So I appreciate that. And Josh noticed it too. Welcome in, Josh. I didn't say hello to you earlier. Good to see you in here. Carol noticed it too. I appreciate it. You guys looking out for me. I'm glad I caught that out of the corner of my eye. We're able to get that fixed. So, see you guys talking about it. 24-12. What's good? Oh, and Riley's in here. Welcome in, Riley. Good to see you. Good to see you in here. I might shed a tear myself if the SEC championship game goes away. I'm with you there. Yeah, you know, Bruce, I talked about this a lot a while back. The new head coach out there at Arkansas, Silverfield, he had some stuff to say about Kirby Smart's Georgia Bulldogs last summer when he was at Memphis. And I know Kirby would never bring that up when they meet at midfield, but I promise you he didn't forget it either. So I was already looking forward to this game, and I'm just curious. It's not like the Dogs need extra motivation, but I was just curious, you know. And yes, Josh, we sure did. I talked about it a little bit earlier. Let's see. I can throw it up here for you if you're not too familiar. This is the young man who decided that he wanted to be a Bulldog today. DJ Dotson, 6'7", somewhere between 320 and 340, out of Mississippi. His father was a 12-year NFL vet at offensive tackle. And this young man was pursued by, LSU, among others, as one of the top most sought after offensive line commits this cycle. 6'7", 320. LSU, Ole Miss, Auburn, Nebraska, Georgia Tech, they all offered the young man. And when they asked him, why did you come to Athens? He said, because of the development. Just that simple. He kept it short and sweet. Nobody develops players the way the University of Georgia does right now on the offensive line. That's essentially what he said. Scuttlebutt, welcome in. I'm not sure if you just got here or not, but aloha. It's good to see you, friend. I'm glad you made it in here. I'm glad you're in here. Our baseball team's now up 3-1. Hey, thanks for the update there, Carol. I can't watch it. I can't watch baseball. I'm not worried about watching it on ESPN Plus or any of those things. And I mean, obviously I'm busy, but when it's on those things, I just have to look for the reports, right? But I can't watch baseball. Major League Baseball is making it harder and harder to watch their game. Can't seem to watch the Braves. And I'm not getting to watch Georgia as much as I want to. Me and baseball are not having a whole lot of luck right now. I'm missing it. I'll tell you that. I appreciate the update. So, yep, that was a pretty good week, I think. And everything that we got going on. Ooh, thumbs down. Everything that we got going on here in the world of college football, coming out of Athens, Georgia right now. And I'll tell you what, this is, I know it, on one hand, this is like my favorite time of year because you have room to sort of stretch your legs and think about and talk about things that you just don't have time to do in the middle of the summer. But on the other hand, it can be stressful trying to figure out, hey, which story is breaking through and getting people's attention this week that would be relevant, right? That we would want to talk about. So this is both an exciting and a stressful time of year in terms of how do we talk about the thing we love the most, which is Georgia Bulldogs football. And recruiting, given the way a lot of people feel about it these days, is the kind of thing that could get rocks thrown at you or get people excited. So you never quite know how that's going to go. And I appreciate you guys hanging in here and showing up because I look across social media and I'm like learning things because there are good people out there doing hard work in terms of data mining and finding information and all that sort of stuff about the notes like I shared tonight about how Georgia is an everything school, right? Georgia and Alabama are the only two schools that have gotten out there and done what they've done this year. You look at, and I can throw that back up on the screen in case you didn't catch it earlier. They are the only two schools to make the college football playoff, the men's and women's basketball tournaments, the baseball playoffs, as well as the softball playoffs. And again, it's stuff like that I think is cool to have a chance to explore during this time of year. But it is interesting because you have stuff going on like with SEC meetings this week. You have recruiting happening. And again, people, say what they want to say about recruiting. But then you have the SEC meetings and Kirby just getting down right to brass tacks and telling you, look, the only thing I care about is how do I get my team in? And I think that's one of the things that gets lost in all this. People wanted to talk about all these other things and they all deserved attention. But depending on who you are and which team you root for, you're listening to your coach or your AD for making news. And Kirby just nailed it for me with this one. I'd much rather talk about how the teams are decided that are in it than how many teams are actually in the field. Because it doesn't matter. You're going to have to go beat them all anyway. And he echoed that, he didn't echo it. He corrected an assumption by a reporter this week who was like, well, some of the teams that get in maybe don't deserve to be in or whatever. And he said, well, I don't agree with that at all because you look at Miami, they were on the back half of the bracket and then they made it all the way to the national title game. So he's for having a field that gets enough people in. It's just, is the SEC going to be penalized in a way that seemingly isn't equitable to the way the rest of college football is being judged? And I think a lot of the SEC coaches and ADs feel that way. I don't know how you can ever quantify that or prove it, because if you say it, immediately you sound like you're whining. If you need any other thing that's going to make sense of that statement, just look at what Coach Cignetti said this week. Essentially, he said, look, we got to do something about this money, or the college football as we know it's going to go away. You probably saw this quote if you've been on social at all. And people were roundly applauding Coach Cignetti for saying that. He's right. We got to do something about this crazy money here in college football. It's ruining the sport. When Kirby said exactly the same thing, the people who are roundly applauding Coach Cignetti were accusing Kirby of whining and crying, and the SEC as a whole of bemoaning the fact that now they can't win the way they used to. It's all silly. Doesn't mean we're not going to talk about it, though. It just shows you. You hear and see things the way you want to hear and see them most of the time. That's essentially what it comes down to. I want to remind you again, you can see it on the ticker below there. If you have given any thought at all about trying Plus, now is the time. $3 for the next 3 months, and you're going to get everything that we got. You can come check it out. And at the end of that 3 months, it's up to you. If you don't like it, you're out $3, $1 a month. If you love it, then you'll be right on board, right in the middle of everything as we head full speed into our fall football coverage. So I just want to remind you that. Link is in the description below. Click that link. It'll take you right there, tell you exactly what to do and how to join. If you are already over at Plus and you are a $3 tier member, it's open to you too. You're going to get everything from now for the next 3 months. So enjoy it. I hope you like it. And let us know how it's going, because we always want feedback. We always want feedback. Yeah, see, all right, Bruce, here we go. What's going on here? It says, I want the kids to keep getting top dollar, but we need to change this portal system. I don't like seeing the players changing teams every year. It just looks bad. Mercenaries to the max. Well, you know, Bruce, they absolutely are trying. Well, I don't want to give them too much credit. There is a bill, which, of course, Sankey did not take a position on at SEC meetings because he hadn't read it yet. Fair enough. But there's a bill that has things in it like the Lane Kiffin rule. It has the one transfer rule in it. It has, you know, talk of collective bargaining, all those sorts of things. And on its face, it actually looks like you're like, that might work. That could work. But then when you dig into it a little bit further, there are a lot of things that are kind of red flags about it. So I'm not holding my breath that thing's going to get passed. Again, there's a lot of good things in there. The one transfer rule, that sort of thing, like you're talking about here. But the other stuff in there might just be too much to overcome to get that thing passed. So, and it's always interesting to hear what people want to argue is, in their opinion, the biggest issues with college football right now. And I actually kind of hate to do these kind of segments because we're talking about the negative stuff, the stuff that frustrates us. There's a whole lot about college football that we all still love, but you would be, not doing a good job. You would be not being honest with yourself if you didn't admit that college football has issues. So even with all that in play, there are things that people want to argue. College football is broken because of the money, or college football is broken because of the portal, or some combination. If I had to pick a side in that argument, I'm probably going to tell you that college football is broken because of the portal. So I would side with Bruce here. I would say limit the number of times you can transfer. Put a cap on the number of years you can be in college so that we're not stealing opportunities from high school players. And then let the market, and I hate this phrase, honestly, in this context, but let the market figure out how much these people are going to be paid. That's the part of Signetti's quote that really kind of got to me. Because he's like, oh, man, we got to do something, clutching his pearls about the money in college football. But here's the thing. If you, as a coach or an AD, or some schools have general managers now, whoever is pulling the trigger on these NIL deals, if you just say, you know what, we're not paying that for a true freshman, and everybody kind of looked at each other and said, you know what, we're not doing it either, then that money would stop. This never-ending ceiling on NIL valuation would all of a sudden find a ceiling. And in a way, that's what Kirby Smart and Kalen DeBoer and a couple other coaches out there are doing. They're like, we're not going to bid the max on every 18-year-old kid that comes out of high school and try to win a money war. We're just simply not going to do it. They've set their bar. They understand who and what they are as a program and what their true value as a program is to this young man, and they're not going to exceed it. And if more schools did that, it would take care of itself. But the circumstances are not the same all across college football. You've got schools like Vanderbilt who have to pay top dollar to get a top level player or prospect. They have to. They have nothing else to lean on other than the checkbook. And I just used Vanderbilt as an example there. There are plenty of others. But some schools don't have to do that. And I understand that you're going to have a different perspective depending on which school you're at. But some of these problems that have been created by college football could also be solved by college football if they were just willing to stand firm and solve them. Unfortunately, much like in our broader world these days, there aren't enough people who want to do that. They want somebody else to do it. And that generally doesn't work out in my experience. So you run to Congress to save you, and then you find yourself still standing there at the end of the day waiting because there are too many different varied interests. If you don't want to pay that much, don't pay that much. Simple. And, you know, if somebody wants to break their system because they do want to pay it, well, let them do that too, I guess, until there's some, you know, some sort of rule here. That's the thing. Everybody gets to decide how they want to build their team. I'm actually, you know, I've mentioned it before. I actually want to explore that a little more in depth and talk about what that means for Georgia this year in 2026. Because I think we are at a breaking point, a watershed moment for Kirby and the football program in terms of this philosophy. And I talked about it this week or last week on the last video and the last podcast. Not that anybody's noticed. For some reason, YouTube said, you don't exist this week. And so people hadn't really seen that video. But I do talk about it in there. And I just think that we're getting to the point where it's kind of, you know, rubber meets the road time for Kirby and this philosophy. So I may just do a whole bit on that and break it down in depth. But we will see how that goes. Any thoughts about Pete Golding outing the coaches who've tampered? Well, I'll say this. He's probably, and I don't know this, right? But it sounds to me, based on what I've seen, he's like, listen, if you want to go down this road, we'll play. You want to play? We'll play. And apparently he's not too worried about it. He's not worried about whatever might come his way because he feels like he's loaded for bear. I can't help it. It has nothing to do with my allegiance to my school or anybody else like the SEC or any of that. I love college football. I am a firm believer that sunshine is the best disinfectant, and that truth is where we should plant our feet. So if Dabo's going to call out Pete for what he did, and Pete's like, oh, you want names? I got names. And then he wants to call out everybody else. Go for it. Go for it. If it's Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs, then we'll all learn about it together. And I'm going to be like, you know what? I understand there were no rules, but I'm not going to stand here and defend something, that's clearly shady. And I don't know if it is or not. I don't know if Georgia's ever done anything like that in this era. I have no idea. But I'm all about, if it's wrong, then it's wrong. Let's get it right. And I know that may sound naive. I mean, given the fact that, the arrest rates and the like people who have been kicked off the team and all the penalties of cheating and everything that Michigan's had over the last few years dwarfs everybody else. For some reason, that's not national news every week, though. But it's true. You can go look it up. Michigan is just that program. Now that Whittingham's there, I expect that's going to change. Maybe. I would expect it would. But Michigan, for the last few years, the last 5 years, not the epitome of what they claim to be. And I understand every school has skeletons, but Michigan's a mess right now. So anyway, where am I going with this? It's the whole thing about Michigan's a mess. Nobody seems to care. They cheated. Nobody seems to care. And, I guess that's why I feel the way I feel about, just out them all. Burn it all down. Just tell the truth. And if there's penalties to be incurred, then you earned it. Hope it was worth it. Whatever you got, hope it was worth it. And all of us, as football fans, we just have to have faith in the people that are running our program, and we each get to decide for ourselves, am I comfortable with what Kirby is, who he is, and how he works? You get to decide. I can't tell you. But I promise you, if I say that I am, or if I am not comfortable with Kirby Smart, it's not going to be based on whether or not I think Georgia's going to win or lose. It's going to be based on whether or not I'm comfortable with Kirby Smart, based on what we know. And obviously, you learn new information all the time. But for my money, it doesn't matter if it's going to cost you a season or a bowl game or whatever. Do we want to get college football fixed or not? And I'm somebody that does. So, yes, you're talking about the families and how they're influencing the decisions of these young men. I'm sure they are. I'm certain they are. And you've heard me talk about it. There are some people who do not have the luxury of thinking 3 years down the road or 4 years down the road. They know mama needs help right now. And that's all they're worried about. And I understand that. I come from a place that is real, real close to home. I get it. And I want them to not be in that position, but I understand that some people are. And that's, that just is what it is. So, like I said, this is a big recruiting weekend. There's a lot of news this week. There's a lot of news every week. We are rolling into June. The Plus offer is out there and available for anybody that wants it. We are still generating content here on the back end, taping shows, doing all that kind of stuff that will be rolled out as we move in through the summer here. I'm sitting here right now looking at 3 different topic ideas that I hope to do shows on over the next few days. I've got stuff that I have not even had time to do for you guys. I've got a bag right here. Let's do this. Let's do this real quick. That's a teaser. I've got a teaser for you of something that I really want to share with you, and I have not had time to do it justice, but I can't wait to share that story with you because that's going to be great. And we're just working on content here when there's no games. And I appreciate you guys showing up and listening to me talk about this stuff all the time anyway, even without new games on the docket. Here's my promise to you. As news happens, personal news or Georgia Bulldog news, I will always be here to share it with you as soon as I can and tell you as much as I can. That's my promise to you. If I can tell you with certainty what it is that I know, I will share that with you. And I hope that as we move through the summer here, there's going to be plenty of opportunities for us to do that with stuff popping up along the way here. So keep that in mind as we move through the summer months, and we are trying to all make sure we're drinking enough water and not drowning in these summer storms that we seem to be having here in Georgia right now. Don't get me wrong, I'm thankful for the rain, but boy, oh boy, it is a lot of rain out here where I'm at recently. I don't know where you are. It's been a lot for me. Hey, thanks, Bruce. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. We're working on it. It's I love the fact that you guys are excited about being here on Sunday, because like you said, it's a good way to kick off that next week. That's what I wanted it to be. So I'm happy that that's how it hits for you. And I apologize for my voice and for, still fighting this off. It's nothing worse than summer cold, man. For me anyway. It just doesn't make sense. It makes me angry. You know what I mean? But nobody cares. But I'll tell you this though. I am looking forward to the next, let's see, we're about to hit June. So the next 3 weeks, I'm just excited for Georgia football because I'm expecting that we're going to see commits on the regular. It doesn't mean every day, but there's been a whole lot of hand wringing about Georgia's recruiting class and all that so far. I just expect over the next 3 weeks, maybe the next 4 weeks, the month of June, I just fully expect us to see more and more news more often about another player deciding to come to Georgia, and just, Kirby pulling this thing together the way he always does. Because if there's one thing that I do not doubt when it comes to Kirby Smart, it's his ability to recruit. And we hear people say, man, Georgia's not going to pay, or Kirby's lost his fastball in recruiting. I just don't buy it at all. And the guys that are committing right now, the thing that they keep talking about is, I loved the family feel. I loved the relationship. I loved the development at Georgia. All the things that we know Kirby preaches all the time, that's what these guys are buying into. And now, again, Georgia's like everybody else. They are paying players to come play in Athens, okay? But the thing is, they're just not going to break the bank for an 18-year-old kid, They're just not. Georgia said it at the SEC podium this week. He had a $40 million roster last year. You may have missed it, but that's what he said. So when you look at who's getting that money, then it's going to the guys that they're choosing to keep, not the guys that they're trying to recruit. They'll be fairly market valued and compensated as freshmen, but Georgia's not going to break the bank for them. And therefore, Georgia's recruiting classes are going to look different in how they pop off, right? You're not going to have, it'll be a slow build. It'll be fewer of those 5-star come on spells, 5-star Jackson dollars, fewer of those, most likely. But you have to rest assured that based on the track record and their evaluation process, Kirby Smart and his staff are getting the people they want. And that's where I just say, look at the results in Athens and you tell me if they know what they're doing. So, but like I said, this year I think is one of those years, the first year really, where this philosophy that Georgia's employing is really going to sort of come home to roost. And we'll see. We will just see how it goes, how they do on the field, how they do in the recruiting process as we get down through the fall. I'm making no projections on the recruiting process. I don't cover recruiting like that. I just try to make us aware when somebody chooses to be a Bulldog. But we'll see how it all plays out. I just think this is a key year in what that looks like for Georgia moving forward. And I'm very interested to see how it plays out. So until next time, you guys take care of yourselves, your friends, your families, take care of each other. And whoever dropped the thumbs down on the show tonight, I hope it was worth it. I'll do better next time. Go Dogs!